In 2024, I consumed a lot of media. To be honest, that's every year, but my major obsessions this year were BL webtoons and anime. And considering I watched over 30 anime per season, I thought it might be fun to do a video with my top recommendations for the year. Since I have a hard time leaving stuff out though, I thought I'd make this a top recommendations for the year list in general, so bear with me as I break down our categories. Let's start with the live action TV shows. I used to be a K-drama junkie, but I've not been watching them this year, so there's actually only one item from 2024 on this list. First, because this is my first life, 2017. This one was an old one that I ended up rewatching this year, and the cast is varied and full of autistic coded representation. I found the male lead's personality a lot more relatable than the female lead, but I found her circumstances much more relatable as a woman in her 30s. Second, Our Dining Table 2023. Sometimes live action adaptations of manga or anime can be a miss, but this was a very heartwarming story of a lonely man finally finding where he belongs. I actually liked this adaptation more than the short manga it was based on because it expanded on an element of his past life that I felt could have been explored more while I'd been reading the manga. Third, Nobody Wants This 2024. An offbeat romance between Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. I pretty much watched this show because I'm a millennial. I liked seeing these two familiar faces in roles closer to my own age as it is now, and their chemistry was very impressive. I'm glad this was a short series and not just a movie. Speaking of movies, let's move on to the second list. I didn't see that many movies this year either, but there were a few standouts. First, Wicked, movie of the year, if I'm speaking honestly. This was so much better than I thought it would be. My only hope is that Glinda and Alphaba will kiss in the sequel. Second, Woman of the Hour. Considering this is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, I'm glad she touched on the story in such a way that really emphasizes the experience of women who have to deal with awful men, from the day-to-day gross ones to the worst-case scenario. Third, Deadpool and Wolverine. I actually saw this in a movie theater. It was delightful and funny with a fairly cohesive theme, even with all of its various cameos and references. I think the core of the story is pretty solid, but I think watching Hugh Jackman's and Ryan Reynolds' interviews during the promotional campaign actually improved my experience of the movie. Fourth, Spy Family Code White. I watched this as one of my Christmas movies this year. Spy Family always delivers as a wholesome slice of life featuring a few supernatural and action elements. Most of the movie feels like an extended edition of the goodness we were getting every week from the anime series, but there's a great action sequence in the middle of the movie that I think warranted their taking it to theaters. One of my New Year's resolutions was to read at least one book a month. I totally crushed it, so it was pretty hard to narrow the items on this list down. But here are my top 5 from this year. If you pay close attention, you can probably see the common theme connecting all the books. Whoops. First, No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. A brutal dissection of a man who struggles to connect to the world and find failure at every turn of his life. Second, Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. The memoir of a comedian, Fern Brady, in which she describes her personal story as an undiagnosed autistic woman. Third, Convenience Store Woman by Murata Sayaka. A look into the inner world of a woman who finds it hard to follow the path paved for her by societal expectations. Fourth, Unmasking Autism by Devin Price, PhD. A deep dive into autism and what it means to mask it to fit into a conventional society. Fifth, Self-Portraits by Osamu Dazai, a collection of short stories and essays by the author of No Longer Human, autobiographical in nature along the timeline of his life. I know I could include light novels in the books category, but quite frankly, I just didn't want to. I wasn't reading these in the same way. I'm sure some of you will understand. Anyway, I went on a Nishio Ishin bender this year because of the Monogatari continuation, so here were my top 2 from this year. First, Nade Monogatari by Nishio Ishin, the book that made me like Nadeko as a character. It completely turned me around on her, and I'm glad the anime adaptation did such a great job. Second, Shinobu Monogatari by Nishio Ishin. Even though there was an anime adaptation of the stories in this book, I think you should actually read the light novels if you're an anime-only viewer. I think the tone is so different, and there are moments in the book that are too funny to be missed out on as a Monogatari fan. Justice for Tropical-esque. This was also the year of BL webtoons for me, and while the list of the ones I've read is incredibly long, I feel like this is more of a guilty pleasure, so the list here is surprisingly short compared to the amount I've consumed. But I hope you'll enjoy these recommendations if you do check them out. First, Master on Saturdays by Somonhwa and Dodi. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, so please let me know if I'm wrong. Not an accurate or healthy portrayal of a BDSM relationship, but I find the character writing subtle yet compelling. The art is also incredibly beautiful that I don't even mind that it's uncensored. Second, Punch Drunk Love by Moscaretto and Okdong. The tagline of this BL webtoon is, "Love is like a punch to the face." I love it. I think it's actually much more accurate of a description than any I could offer. But here's how I would describe the relationship dynamic. A delightfully quirky and unconventionally autistic coded bottom totally baffles his much more aloof top. Third, My Guildmate Next Door by Honeytrap and Bijak. This one is the slowest of slow burns, but if you're like me and you enjoy misunderstandings, character development, and a relationship of trust that is built over time, you'll really enjoy this series. Honorable mention, because this is actually a manga, Hashi no Excel Size. It's not a webtoon, in case you couldn't tell by the title. This one stands out in my memory this year as one of the silliest concepts with one of the most wholesome dynamics. Basically, one guy joins a sake society at his university to get a girlfriend, but ends up helping out his Excel-sized clubmate resolve a particular problem. If you like idiots who don't know when they're in love, this is one that will have you kicking your feet. Okay, on to the heaviest section of the video, the anime recs. Keep in mind that I watched over 30 anime per season of the year, so this was a really difficult list to narrow down. That's why I broke it into genre categories so it would be easier to digest. In historical fantasy, first, Orb on the Movements of the Earth. An incredible story about faith and science and how far people will go in the pursuit of the truth. The story's pacing is perfect, the animation and production values are high, and the characters are each unique and believable. This is probably my anime of the year. Second, Apothecary Diaries. This series is popular enough that I'm sure it doesn't even need a summary at this point, but alongside the compelling court drama and mystery advertised, there is a gorgeous visual adaptation and impeccable timing and transitions between the comedic and more serious beats. The voice acting does not get enough praise, in my opinion. I look forward to this series every week. Third, Yatakarasu. The first episode is a bit slow, but I urge everyone to give this at least 2 episodes. It's another court drama with a supernatural twist, and the twist will keep twisting. The character writing is the true strength of this work. No one is a simple trope. Every character is layered with depth and nuance. The world is also very well developed, and that only makes the drama more compelling. Fourth, The Elusive Samurai. The animation in the first episode will hook you. Based on, and I emphasize only based on, the true story of a would-be lord whose entire family is executed in a coup to claim it for the emperor, this is the story of how he rose up against his enemies through the unique skill of running away. Just watch it and you'll see the appeal. The colorful and avant-garde animation style and comedic bits stand in stark contrast to the gruesome nature of events being depicted at times, but I quite enjoyed that. In modern drama, first, Oshinoko Season 2. As a fan of musical theater, I really enjoyed how the behind the scenes was depicted in the first arc. It was a bold move to basically show an entire stage production over the course of a couple episodes, but I think that was taking advantage of the medium to go where the manga could not. We also get a closer look at Best Girl Kana this season, and while I'm sad there was less Ruby, I think people make too big of a deal out of how much screen time a character gets when they honestly aren't serving a particular segment of a story. In the second half, Ruby becomes more prominent of a character anyway, and in a way that makes sense. I can tell it's leading to a finale, and while I've heard that the finale might disappoint, the view on the road to get there has been beautiful. Second, Girls Band Cry. Last year, we got Trigun Stampede. This year, we get Girls Band Cry, a story of how a country bumpkin who transfers to a school in the big city to escape bullying and ends up joining an indie rock band. While I think the animation in this show was not as impressive as Trigun Stampede, I think that it was still carried out in such a way that you're drawn into the story rather than distracted from it. The character models were so expressive and everything on the screen really came to life. The voice acting helped a lot. I think this anime is a must-watch. Third, Nega Posi Angler. One of the best dramas of the year, following a down-on-his-luck soccer who gets a new lease on life when he meets a quirky group of fisher people. It's a story about rediscovering small joys in life and finding something worth living for. Fourth, Senpei wa Otokonoko. This anime does not get enough attention. I think a lot of people wrote it off because of the animation, but I think the story of a boy who cross-dresses to feel more like himself in a society that rejects his identity is one worth watching. I did a whole video covering this series already though, so check that out if you still need convincing. In mystery, offbeat. First, Monogatari Off and Monster Season. This is actually my personal favorite anime of the year, but that's because I'm a huge Monogatari fan. I did a commentary video a week for every episode of the show while it was airing. This isn't exactly a recommendation because I don't think you can appreciate it fully if you haven't seen anything else in the series, but I do think it'll catch your attention if you do happen to give it a shot. The first episode is actually a pretty interesting standalone. If you've watched Monogatari and still haven't watched this, I hope you will soon, because Shaft has managed to maintain the same level of quality and style that this series is known for. Second, Toshimin. If you're interested in what Monogatari is like, but the series itself seems too daunting, whether it be due to its length or reputation, I think this series has the same vibe and style and an easier barrier of entry to get past. Though it stands out in its own way because it deals with two young would-be detectives who resolve mundane mysteries. There is a twist, and I think you'll really like where it goes. Third, Migi and Dali. A pair of twins pretends to be one child, so they will be adopted and taken into the city where their mother died. This series deserved a lot more attention than it got. The first episode or two are intriguing, but probably put a lot of people off because of the weird vibes. It's hard to tell at first what type of show it will be since it's a slice of life that plays out like a thriller. Like Yatakarasu, however, I recommend committing to 3 episodes or so, allowing yourself to embrace the weirdness. I think the story is pretty solid, aside from one element that has gotten a mixed response from the viewers, and the theme is packaged neatly in the final resolution. If you liked Sakamoto desu ka, but would have wanted a proper conclusion, I think you'll really enjoy this series by the same author. Fourth, Link Click. I finally watched the first season of Link Click, and it was fantastic. I need to catch up on season 2, but haven't felt the motivation yet. Anyway, if you're interested in a unique supernatural concept in which characters travel through time via photos with just a hint of BL, go for it with Link Click. Fifth, Go Go Loser Ranger. These days, there are so many stories out there of demon kings who are actually pretty decent guys that the subversion has become a trope. I was worried this show would turn into a Power Rangers version of that, but it's refreshing to see the main character genuinely want to succeed at being a big shot bad guy. This series reads like an action thriller, and I am here for it. As a longtime Power Rangers fan, I feel like the author and anime production staff really pay tribute to what makes that genre so great while presenting a unique take on the story. Highly recommended if you're a fan of villainous characters. This next category is going to have the most recommendations because I really enjoy romantic stories, and there were quite a few good ones this year. Romance, comedy, and drama. Ranma Half. I thought this was just a shonen action comedy at first, but I was surprised to find it more heavily relies on its romance plot to move the story forward. The two main characters have incredible chemistry, and I totally buy their attraction and awkwardness around each other. I love the pop art stylization of the current animation and enjoy how generally focused the story is so far. I guess that's a benefit of a remake during this modern era of animation. Second, The Dangers in My Heart Season 2. I think this is probably going to be on a lot of people's list, and I totally understand why. When I started The Dangers in My Heart last year, I was really confused about how to feel about it, but the awkwardness of the main character wasn't just a gimmick, it ended up being a real issue for the story to resolve. I think they did a great job with his character development. At the same time, I liked how the story allowed his love interest to be so multifaceted and to have his recognition of her varied sides play a part in developing her, at the same time selling their love story and developing him. It's a very wholesome romance that I think is easy for any audience to digest. Well, once they get past the weirdness of the main character in the first few episodes. Third, How I Attended an All-Guys Mixer. This series will have you questioning your sexuality, or will reaffirm your queerness, I suppose. Three guy friends arrive at a mixer and are surprised to see 3 other guys who are actually girls who work at a cross-dressing bar. Of course, they end up pairing off anyway. Each couple has its own charm, and I like that this story may encourage some people to explore their attraction and preferences with more acceptance for differences. It's a very small step in the right direction, mind, and I feel like calling it yaoi for cowards, shout out to Sitsnap, is still pretty accurate, but I do have to say that it had me giggling aloud every week. Fourth, Yakuza Fiancé. I know that some people criticize the romance genre for being unrealistic, glorifying toxic behavior, blah, 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 blah. But okay, sometimes I just want to watch a pathetic yandere man lick the boots of his equally twisted goddess. What I'm saying is, Petal's pleasures are all guilty. Fifth, the magical girl and the evil lieutenant used to be enemies. The title says it all. This is a short series, each episode only about 10 minutes or so. It's a great little pick-me-up when you're feeling stressed and tired. The short manga series is lovely, but I think the anime really elevated the source material with its high-quality animation. Give this a try on a particular rainy day. Honorable mention, 365 Days to the Wedding. I like to call this series the autistic romance anime. Two autistic adults decide to fake their engagement to avoid being shipped off to Alaska. This series is on the list because I don't know if I'd recommend this to a general audience, but it affected me personally in a really positive way. You can watch my video on that for more details. And now we get to the BL of it all. So I'm glad we got quite a few mainstream BL anime this year. There are 3 I want to highlight, all for different reasons. I just want you to know that you have options. First, we have Tasogare Outfocus. Based on a series of short stories about multiple couples at an all-boy high school film club, this series conveyed the romance and artistic mood that was present in the manga. I was shocked but pleased that they actually depicted the more sensual scenes, though in an artistic way. It didn't feel like yaoi hentai. Each couple presented is more charming than the last. I feel the characters are very interesting and likable, and each relationship dynamic is different. It's a great primer for BL tropes, with the characters even speaking about BL at points. Second, Cherry Magic. This is the story of a 30-year-old virgin who wakes up and finds himself able to read the minds of those he touches. That's how he finds out his coworker is absolutely crazy about him. Does he lose his power eventually, you ask? Well, think about how he got them, and you can draw your own conclusions. If you've seen the live-action Cherry Magic, I think you'll definitely enjoy the anime. The voice acting is great, even if the animation is only okay at times. The English dub is also surprisingly funny and very charming. Tadaima Okaeri. Even though this is an Omegaverse anime, I enjoyed that it was actually more like a family slice of life. I appreciate how it both normalized same-sex marriage and used the Omegaverse concept to highlight the difficulties of facing discrimination for your sexual identity. I think what I really enjoy about certain Omegaverse stories in the larger BL canon is how authors may use it to tackle social issues that women and sexual minorities deal with on a day-to-day basis. I think Tadaima Okaeri is a digestible introduction to that. In slice of life, supernatural, sci-fi. First, Dantadan. This is probably everyone else's anime of the year, and it's well-deserved, not gonna lie. This series has everything from romance to comedy to horror. But I think what will really draw viewers in is the chemistry between the two main characters, Ayase and Okarun. Their opposites attract romance feels natural, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they continue to help each other learn and grow. Second, Natsume Yujinso Shichi. Natsume is back with its 7th season. I actually think this is a series where you can enjoy it at any time and not feel too lost. Each episode still has a standalone feel, even though you're aware that the main character has been through a lot. I really like watching this every week to ground myself and relax. The OST is still the most chill I've ever heard. Highly recommend. Third, Yokai Gakko no Sensei. Another series that I think will fly under the radar. Its silly premise is that a human teacher starts teaching at an all-yokai school. He's a bumbling idiot but earns the affection of his students for his earnestness. My favorite type of character. This is an anime that I think also could have worked as a BL, but let's not talk about that right now. You'll know it when you watch it, so watch it. And finally, Dead Dead Demon Dead 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 Destruction. This series will surprise you. Told out of time order, it's about the prevailing friendship of 2 girls during the turbulence caused by an alien invasion. It depicts the strength of female friendship while also raising important questions about humanity and morality. Highly, highly recommended. That's it for my recommendations for the year. Did we share any of the same favorites? Do you have recommendations for me? I'd actually love to see comments this time because I'm interested to see what I missed. As usual, like and don't subscribe.